It's Bjorn from Higher Learning Lab. In this Photoshop tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use the Photoshop Marquee tools to select areas in your project that you want to select. So let's hop right into it. Here I have a nice little image, some pebbles stacked on the beach, and my tool set is on the left-hand side. And see this dotted square on the left, and that is our marquee, our rectangular marquee. If we click and hold on it, we see all our marquee tools. And we have the rectangular marquee tool, the elliptical marquee tool, single row marquee tool, and single column marquee tool. And they all have very similar options. So I'll go through the options of one of them, and then I'll show you how the other ones work, but they all have all the same options. So all the options I go through right now are going to apply to every one that I show you after I show you this first one. So we'll do the rectangular marquee tool first. We'll do them all in order. And the rectangular marquee, pretty straightforward concept. You have these crosshairs now. We click and hold, and we drag, and we create a box with this dashed line that moves around the box. It's very clear to see what we've selected. And we can now copy whatever we've selected and move it out of the background. Or when we hover over it, we see this white arrow with the dashed box icon. We can actually click and move the marquee around if we want to, if it's not quite where we want it. If not, we just keep it where it is. Then we can copy and paste onto a new layer or whatever we want to do with the selection. Or we can just paint inside that box without worrying about going outside of the box. Whatever you want to do with the selection tool, you can now do that now that we have an area selected. There are options at the very top of Photoshop when you're in any of the marquee tools. And the first one we're going to look at is the Add Selection tool, which we click on this button here, and we can add a selection. So you want to add this rock at the bottom, or a second from the bottom. Now we've added that to our selection. So now if we copy, we'll take both of those selections, and they'll both be copied to a different area, wherever we want to go. And you can even combine selections. So if we select an area that's overlapping, it's going to combine them into one big selection, which is pretty cool. And that's the Add Selection tool. We also have a Subtract Selection tool. So we can say inside of this kind of roughly I-shaped, capital I-shaped selection, everything we select there is going to be, if we copy it, it's going to be copied to somewhere else. But let's say we don't want to copy this area right here. We use the Subtract tool, and now that area inside this inner box will not be selected. And you can also cut out pieces of your selection. So if you don't want to select this top corner, you can just go like that, and then it will cut out that corner in the shape that you created. And that is the minus selection tool, or minus selection tool. Subtract selection is what they call it, sorry. And then we have the Intersect Selection, which will select only the areas that overlap. So we have, let's say we want to just overlap this area down here. We create a box. When I let go of my mouse, all the selection will be gone except for where they overlap, which is this little box in the middle here, which you see now. So that's the Intersect Selection tool. And we have feathering options, which allows us to select a number of pixels internal to the edge of the box. So if we put this to 50 pixels and put it back to our regular box selection, we see that it selects a rounded area. I'll show you that again. By default, we click and drag, and we have you can see the preview selection is square corners or sharp corners. Because we have feathering on, when we let go, we have our corners are feathered and they're rounded. So that's what that does. I'm going to put that back to 0. And we also have the option to change the style. Normal means that we can click and hold, and we can drag a box of any size. We can make it wide and not very tall. We can make it thin and tall. We can make any shape we want. If we hold down the Shift key, we can make sure that it's a square. Always stays the same pixels wide as it is high. So normal style allows us to make any shape selection we want. If we change it to fixed ratio, we can either make a square. Well, let me back up. You change the fixed ratio, you enter the ratio up here that you want. So if you have 1 by 1, you're going to always end up with a square. If you have 1 or 2 wide for every 1 high, then you're going to have 2 pixels wide for every 1 pixel you go high. So it's going to be wider than it is tall. You can change the ratio to whatever you need. And that's the fixed ratio style. Fixed size style is just whatever fixed size you choose. Right now mine's set to 64 by 64. And if I click anywhere, it makes a box that's 64 by 64. And that's the fixed size option. Then we have the refined edge option, which is a whole other ball game, and we get into that in a different video because it deserves its own video. It's a really cool way to make sure that your selections look as natural as possible. And it's great for doing things like hair. And I'll show you that in another video. But that's all there is for the options for the Marquee tools. But we have different shapes of Marquee tools. So we just work with the rectangular one. We can also work with the elliptical Marquee tool, which means we are drawing, hang on, let me change the settings back to default. We are drawing ellipses, or if we hold down the Shift key, we make circles. And then we have all the same options. We can add selections, we can subtract selections, and then we can intersect selections, just like before. We can feather, anti-alias makes smoother edges. We have the same style options, and we also have the refine edge option. And then next up we have the single row Marquee tool. And so if you have a need to select a single row of pixels, this is the tool to use. And I'll prove to you it's a single row. If we zoom in very far, I have my pixel grid turned on, and you can see each one of these boxes is a pixel, and this selection is 1 pixel high, and it's the entire row. And if you don't have your pixel grid turned on, what you want to turn it on, click on the View menu, hover over Show, and then select Pixel Grid. So that's the single row Marquee tool. We also have the single column Marquee tool, which does the same as a single row, only selects 1 pixel in a vertical direction. The only difference between the column Marquee tool and the row Marquee tool is that it's a column instead of a row. So it's vertical instead of horizontal, but it still only selects 1 pixel for the entire row. And that's it for the Marquee tools in Photoshop. I hope this video helps you. My name is Bjorn Allpass from Higher Learning Lab. Please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, share it on social media, and check out HigherLearningLab.com, where we write tech tutorials every single day. Talk to you soon.